Davies and the Kinks from 1964 with You Really Got Me coming in at number 59 on Guitar World magazine's top 100 solos of all time. 1964 sounds particularly familiar to me because it was the year I was born. And if my math is correct, that would make me 27 years old. 54. 54 years ago this song was released, and it basically changed the musical landscape in rock and roll and hard rock music forever. Nothing before it sounded like it. Practically everything in rock and hard rock that came after it were heavily influenced by it. Especially guitar players, from Keith Richards to Pete Townsend to Jimi Hendrix to Eric Clapton and Jimmy Page, and on and on and on, and all the guitar players who were influenced by those guitar players. It all comes back to You Really Got Me by the Kinks. Now, I don't think I'm going to cause too much controversy here or offend too many people when I say that I don't think this is a particularly good guitar solo. I may offend Dave Davies. Sorry, Dave, if you're watching this. But you know, he won't be watching this. You know, the kid was like 16 years old when he pulled off this solo, and it was 1964. It's one of the earliest solos on this list, so it was a different era, and you know, it's not very difficult to play, and that doesn't matter. There's lots of great guitar solos on this list and not on this list that are not hard to play. I just don't find it very interesting to listen to, and not really very interesting to play. You know, melodically, it's very repetitive. It's only a short solo, but it's still very repetitive. It's just basically wanking on the same three-note lick for the entire duration of the solo. But that doesn't matter, because it still very much deserves its place on this list, and I'm going to tell you why. If you know anything about the history of rock and roll music and rock and roll guitar, you will probably know what I'm going to say. If you don't know anything about the history of rock and roll guitar, settle in for a few minutes. I'm going to try and teach you something about the history of guitar distortion and why this song is so important. Willie Kizzert. Willie Kizzert was a guitar player for a band back in 1951 called Jackie Brenston and his Delta Cats, who were also Ike Turner's rhythm section. They were in the studio one day getting ready to record a track called Rocket 88. And when Willie plugged in his amplifier, he didn't get that nice, crisp, clean sound that he was expecting. Everything was dirty and distorted and noisy. Turns out his amplifier had gotten damaged in transit on the way to the studio. Also turns out that Willie really liked this new filthy sound that was coming out of his amplifier. And so he used it on the track Rocket 88. Rocket 88 has now gone down in history as being generally considered the first recorded example of guitar distortion as we know it. Other guitar players had been using humbuckers to try and fatten up their sound and overdriving their amps. But as far as like a fuzzy distortion, Rocket 88 is the first known recorded example. Thus, it has also gone down in history as being many people consider it the first rock and roll song. Throughout the 50s, many other guitar players tried to emulate this sound by messing with their amps and overdriving their amps, and you know, there were no pedals back then. But it wasn't really until 1964 that a young Dave Davies took a razor blade to his amplifier speaker and slashed the hell out of it. Poked some holes in the cone with a pencil and created a guitar distortion that he brought to the masses with the hit single You Really Got Me. All of these other guitar players who had been experimenting with distortion didn't really bring it to the mainstream the way the Kinks did. This was a worldwide international smash hit, and that's what they called them back then, smash hits. It just really brought guitar distortion into the mainstream, and it changed the game forever in rock and hard rock music. And this song is basically considered the first hard rock song. Some people call it the first heavy metal song. I wouldn't go that far. That crown still belongs to Black Sabbath, in my opinion. But it really changed the game and influenced so many other guitar players and so many other bands and their sound. And damn important to the history of rock and roll music and hard rock music and to the birth of metal. So anyway, very important to the history of rock and roll music, and best song released in 1964, and one of the best songs released in the 60s. If you don't count Diddy Diddy Dum Diddy Do, which was also released in 1964. Hardly as influential. So that was You Really Got Me, and the solo for You Really Got Me by Davies, coming in at number 59. At 58, we have Eric Clapton, and I think Cocaine. So I'm going to go learn some Eric Clapton. I hope you like that one. Short, it's only 25-30 seconds long. We will see you next time, and thanks for watching. As always, take care. Ciao.